Let's ask questions.
Sure, go ahead.
When you said it takes one person to make a divorce and to make a marriage, what did you mean by that? Because I feel like that's such a lot of responsibility
Well,
on one person in a failed marriage.
well, actually, we're going to be dealing with accepting personal responsibility for the sin that takes place prior to a divorce. But basically, a marriage is two people becoming one. If somebody is one by themselves, they can do whatever they want. So it's a selfishness thing, and I care more about me than us. So it takes two people that want to make a marriage work to make it work. If one wants to make it work and the other one doesn't, it's not going to work. So, make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's do the math. Satan likes to divide and subtract. God likes to add and multiply. So do the math. Okay, remarriage after the loss of a spouse. This is the other bigger category that we have. There is a lot less spiritual warfare baggage involved here because the covenant of marriage was fulfilled. It's till death do us part. And when one of the spouses dies, that covenant has been fulfilled. Yeah. So there's not you're still under grace basically here. Whereas over there, you're under the law more. This, you're still under grace. God can bring someone else, but you still have to go through a lot of the same, even a divorce is sort of like somebody died. Okay, the relationship died, just not the other person. And this one, the other person died, which ended the relationship. So it's a little bit different. There's a lot less spiritual baggage. Obviously, in every relationship, there's some kind of sin involved. None of us are perfect, so there's things that need to be dealt with. But it's really important to grieve the loss and heal and reestablish that vertical relationship. You're trying to become whole again. A big part of you just disappeared. So now you got to kind of allow that to kind of go away, and now it's all about you and God. So now you're whole again, hopefully after some time. And, part of the healing, though, is a lot of times we only remember the good times. We forget the bad times after somebody has departed. But, so you reestablish the vertical relationship, but there is a different set of problems compared to a divorce. Like I said, it's law versus grace over here. I like to use an example of a new pair of shoes when there's a new spouse. Anybody ever got blisters from a new pair of shoes? But then after you wear them a while, there's nothing more comfortable than an old pair of shoes, right? It just goes right on. They're all broken. But that new pair, the first couple times you wear it, you end up with blisters. So you kind of got to break them in, right? But it takes some grace and mercy, right, to deal with the blisters so that they can become comfortable later. That's really kind of in my head how that new spouse kind of, you have to allow things to kind of become more comfortable and work with them that way. Like I said, they only remember the good times, which often leads to comparison, the new to the old. It's like, well, my old spouse always did this, or they never did that, and so now there's a comparison. And like we say in the pyramid over here, the spouse that you have now needs to be right there after God. If there's anything else in between the two of you, there's going to be an issue. So that's one of the biggest issues when there's a remarriage after the loss of a spouse, is that tendency to compare the new one to the old one. Because we only remember the good times. We don't remember, I think that's why they usually call them the dearly departed, because, we think fondly, although sometimes it's good riddance, But even if it's that case, God will bless the fact that you fulfilled the covenant, okay? There's a lot more grace here than there is there. There's a little bit, but way more over here.
But take time to know that new person, as we found out when our mothers remarried. Larry.
Yeah, use the mic.
Oh, no, you do it.
Use the mic. At least yours is working. I'm not sure this one is.
I don't know if this is working or not, but there are differences for remarrying. My mother finally got a good one. My dad and her were married for 35 years. They should have never been married 35 days, but they did get divorced, and then she dated off and on. She was a senior citizen, of course, by then. And then she finally met a wonderful, wonderful man. And he was so good to her and so good to us. And Larry's mom, after, 25 years of marriage, your dad died, I think, 25, 27.
25, 6 or 7,
and
somewhere in there.
She started dating probably 3 years later.
Stay tuned for more of Blended Families Ministry on Christian Living Radio.
Make sure that God is in that next relationship and that God confirms to you that is a good relationship.
And as Carol Snapp breaks it down on the importance of allowing God to choose you.
3 years later,
she
also was a senior citizen. And the man she ended up marrying, we should have known something was wrong. He said, I will only date anybody that is a widow. I don't want to date anybody that had been divorced. Didn't think anything of it at the time. And then we found out why. When they did get married, they came out here to visit, and they took pictures while they were here of our family and everything. And, of course, Larry became an instant stepdad to my 3 kids when we got married. He had never been married and never had any children. I had been married twice before, and both marriages failed. And then I let God finally take over. But Larry's mom, they started dating, and then they got married, and they sold his house, and they sold her house, and they bought our house, something new that they wanted to have together. But when his mother would go out and buy things for that new house, he would throw things away that was from their childhood. He was jealous. He didn't want anything in his new home to do with that other relationship, even though Larry's dad was dead. Larry's dad died, and we weren't even there, so none of her kids were even there. They were out of state. So you really need to get to know that person before you marry them to really know them. She had no idea until after he died, when she started looking for things that they had been thrown out. So you really, but that just, you really need to get to know that person before you marry them. You need to know everything about that person.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, they sent the pictures of the kids back because they weren't her biological anything.
Yeah.
So we don't need them. That was pretty bad, You wouldn't think that would be a big deal, but it's like, well, they're not part of your family, so I don't need the pictures. So, those are the kind of things, especially after the loss of a spouse, you run into things like that. And like Carol said, both of our moms got remarried later on, so we became stepkids like in our 40s, 50s. And we're like, this is awkward.
Yeah.
And the guy that my mom married had 2 or 3 kids. I don't think I ever even met them.
At your mom's funeral, we did. One.
Yeah, one of them came to my mom's funeral, right? But other than that, there was no communication whatsoever. It was like, yeah, they're there, but not really, And so there's all those kind of really awkward things that you end up having to deal with, even though like, we have been married for 37 years almost, so in a way, we're not really blended. I mean, we're on our first marriage, for me anyway. But even later in life, because even our parents end up getting remarried, we end up being part of a blended family now. So you're either coming from one, you're in one, or you're going to be in one.
Yep.
Right?
That's 20.
So, we pretty much got everybody covered here. And I think I forgot to mention one of the types. We always end up, God's family is a blended family. We're all adopted into the same family. So, we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. So we're all related by His blood, not ours. Okay. Yeah, adult children don't want to blend. I had no intention of blending, But I was, 40-something years old, too. It's not like I care about who these other adult kids are.
Well, we were out of state, too, Larry. I think if we'd been in state, that would have been different.
Maybe.
Doesn't sound promising.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay.
But, yeah, if it was convenient, maybe. But, yeah, I was not going to go out of my way to be all that blendable. Okay, requires...
This was before the ministry, too.
Well, yeah, that was way before. Yeah.
That we should have been blending. We didn't know.
We had no idea. So, even any kind of remarriage requires a lot of grace and mercy here. Any relationship, whether it's a marriage or not, just friends. True friends are going to extend a lot of grace and mercy because they understand they're not perfect and neither are you. Okay? So we just give everybody some room to be themselves. And so that this one times one thing over here, what this really means is you have to be okay with who you are. Because when you're okay with you, you can be okay with somebody else that's not quite there yet. Right? But you got to be okay with who you are. That's where you get filled this way. Right? God, all good things come from above. You get filled from here so that it can spill out this way. But if it's not coming in, you're going to be short, and then you're going to be trying to suck it out of somebody else. So if they're not getting filled, then you're both kind of up and down. All right? So, okay. A lot of grace and mercy. Take the time to discover each other's gifts. Have a covenant mentality. If you have the covenant mentality, then you don't mind taking the time to figure out what the other person's gifts are. It's about becoming a new, we like to say yours, mine, and ours, right? Your normal, my normal, our normal. That our normal needs to be God's normal. Right. A Christ-like normal. Grace, mercy, love, compassion, empathy, those kind of things. But if you're in it for the long haul, then you can take the time to actually talk. What a concept. Talk to each other to discover what each other is good at. What each other is good at, what they like to do, figure out the gifts that God has given them, and then take advantage of those gifts. I don't really have the gift of bookkeeping, although I did take bookkeeping in high school. It's not my gift. We can learn to do a lot of things that we don't really have a gift for. But if somebody else has a gift for it, hey, by all means, you can handle it. I'll do the other things. So take the time to discover what each other's gifts are. Have a covenant mentality. The trials and tribulations that we are promised are temporary. Right? God never starts anything on a negative, and He never ends anything on a negative. All the negative stuff is what Satan is